Thank you so much, Chairman Cook. Thank you to our ranking member, Sears, for holding this important and timely hearing. With the Western Hemisphere set to see many key presidential, parliamentary, and municipal elections this year, as you have pointed out, Mr. Chairman, that will have far-reaching implications. This is an opportunity to examine the landscape to see how elections may impact the region and our own interests. And sadly, one place we know we won't see elections, as the chairman and the ranking member have pointed out, is in my native homeland of Cuba. The Cuban people continue to be denied the right to choose their own leaders. This system in Cuba is a farce. The president is selected by the National Assembly. And the National Assembly, that's selected by the regime in what can only be described as a vicious circle of corruption. Raul Castro claims that he will step down and allow a transition of power in April. He's already put that back once. The reality is, even if this so-called transition happens, the balance of power will remain with Raul Castro for as long as he wants it, and the people of Cuba will continue to suffer. The U.S. must not give Castro any concessions until we see the regime meet basic conditions, like the release of all political prisoners and prisoners of conscience. The people must be allowed to exercise their fundamental and basic human rights, like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and to have free, fair, and transparent elections that are monitored by international observers. And then, of course, we have Castro's protege in Venezuela, Maduro. Venezuela is set to hold sham elections sometime in December, but with Maduro in power, little is expected. Even if elections are held, we know that it will be a fraudulent process. They all have been, just as the municipal elections were last year. The people of Venezuela have been pleading for a new democratically elected government. In 2015, when the opposition won in the National Assembly, what did Maduro do? It stripped it of any legislative power. Now Maduro's grip on the Supreme Court and the Supreme Electoral Tribunal make it impossible for the voice of the people to be heard at the polls. When the people protest, they face beatings, arrests, and even death. The administration has taken action against Maduro regime officials, but there's so much more that we can do. There's a severe food and medicine shortage in Venezuela as a result of Maduro's failed and oppressive policies, and that is why Ranking Member Eliot Engel and I introduced, and the House passed last month, the Venezuelan Humanitarian Assistance and Defense of Democratic Governance Act. Our bill mandates a strategy from our agency, USAID, to provide humanitarian aid to the people of Venezuela. And the bill also aims to fight widespread corruption among Venezuela government officials, and I hope that our colleagues in the Senate will take action and pass this measure so that we can help those who are in urgent need. This year, we will also see important elections in Brazil, with public opinion, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, at an all-time low, increasing public debt, high-profile corruption allegations reaching the highest levels in Brazil. The country is at a crossroads and faces a critical election. At the center of the corruption scandal is the Odebrecht case. Not only has it implicated Brazil's politicians, but it's also implicated high-profile business executives. Unfortunately, the Odebrecht corruption isn't limited to just Brazil. It has incriminated more than half of the countries in Latin America and many current heads of state. It is shocking. In December 2016, our Department of Justice reached a plea agreement with Odebrecht for at least $3.5 billion of global penalties to resolve charges of bribery in what has amounted to be the largest case of its kind in history. And what I want the Department of Justice to do is to name the officials who are implicated in this, because many of those officials will be standing for elections, and the people will not know that those people they're voting for, those have been subject to bribery, not just allegations, but factual cases of bribery. And I'll end with Colombia. Colombia is at a pivotal point in the aftermath of the agreement between the government and the terror group FARC. Colombia still has a ways to go, but it's often overlooked, and it's a critical one. We have so many national security interests. Thank you, Chairman Cook. Thank you, Ranking Member Sears, for holding this important hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.